God knows that you're lonely in the waiting. You've got no one to spend your life with. There's no friends. You've got no family around. Maybe you don't have children yet, or maybe your children are grown and you're in the empty nest season of life. And the only human interaction you might have is the people that you work with or the people you might see at church. But the people at church, they're with their families, they're with their loved ones, so you still feel alone even there. And or maybe you talk to people on the phone or online, but still you're lonely and you're frustrated and you're clinging to God and you're trying to find joy in the Lord and trying to just stay in this mindset of contentment in God alone. But still, you can't escape the desire that you have to spend your life with someone. Even though that relationships, they require hard work, they require sacrifice, and it's no longer where you can just think about yourself and do what you want when you want, but it's a radical sacrifice. But still, that seems way more appealing than the suffering that we experience in singleness. When you try to live your life fully, you try to just fill your days with so many things. Like you start learning new things, you invest in yourself, you take on new projects or take up a new hobby. Maybe you pour yourself into work, or you just find whatever you can do outside of the house so that you can fill that space, fill that your idle time with something. Just maybe you're binge watching movies and TV shows, just anything you can do to take your mind off of the loneliness and coming home at night and there's no one to come home to. And maybe on the surface you seem like everything's okay, like you're holding up well, but if you're honest, I know you're not. And maybe you're tired of pretending, because this feeling, this desire to share your life with someone, it's not going away. When we go to lay down at night, it's when we really start to think about our day, and that turns into our life and the things that we tend to think about, the things we're lacking more than the things that we're grateful for. So that can be a really hard time, is when you go to lay down. And maybe you're crying yourself to sleep because the pain of the loneliness, it starts to become like a physical pain, and it's really hard to just shake that. And truly, hope deferred does make the heart sick. And maybe you're praying to God and you're saying, Lord, it is enough, because your word says that it's not good for man to be alone and that you made a suitable helper for him. But Lord, I don't see one for me. Where is my suitable helper? Where is my person? Do you have a person for me, Lord? And why is it taking so long? Why aren't they coming? Or am I destined to this life of singleness and isolation? And some people are, but then you remember the verses about love, how these three remain: faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. And how, I think it's in Corinthians, if you have all these things in the world but you don't have love, then you have nothing. And so maybe you're thinking or asking God, Lord, if this is all there is, if this is all that I get to experience in this life, then it is enough. And you could say, Lord, maybe you're saying, Lord, I'd rather go home and be with you. And it's not because you want to die, it's because you want the pain and the suffering of the prolonged, the constant heartache and the yearning for something that, it doesn't seem like it's coming. Just the pain of the loneliness, you want it to end. Because it affects you not only emotionally and mentally and physically, but even spiritually. And sometimes it just gets to that point where, it seems like it's too much to bear, where you can't endure another day, another week, let alone any more years. So even if you come to the realization that suffering is for our good, that it draws us in closer to God, and that it has many spiritual benefits for us, it also brings us down, because the pain of loneliness and the pain of lacking affection, lacking intimacy, lacking companionship, and just someone to share life with, those things, they don't get better with time. They don't get any easier. If anything, it increases the level of fight that we have to put up to withhold our hearts from becoming calloused and bitter towards love and even towards God. And so we really have to protect our hearts. We have to guard our hearts, because in Hebrews 12:15, it says, "See to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become defiled. Life is still worth living, even if you're not married. And there are people who love you. It's not the same as romantic love, but still it's the same. It's love no matter what. So if you still have your parents, reach out to them, reach out to your siblings, or, whatever family member you have, or your children, just somebody that you can trust, someone who, can offer you just a listening ear in your time of need. And remember that Jesus told us that we would suffer and that he would always be with us. So he's carrying us through the trials of life, even the loneliness that we have to endure at times. We have to remember that we live in a sinful world. So the chances of having a God-honoring, God-centered marriage is kind of slim. It's possible. All things are possible with God, but it's going to take a lot of prayer and healing on, both parts, because a lot of people are broken. We have these childhood traumas and the things that we've endured that have just kind of messed up our even just how we communicate and how we love people. A lot of people don't really know what it is to love, and or we get with the wrong person, in the wrong marriage or relationship, and those people wound us so badly that we have a new set of traumas, and then a lot of people aren't receiving the healing that they need. And so without being healed, it kind of makes it hard for people to pursue these meaningful, committed, and God-honoring relationships that lead to marriage, that commitment. And so you have to kind of keep that mindset too. Like, that may be part of the delay in, you coming together with the person that God has for you. And so you just have to be patient. Maybe you could find some biblical counseling or a life coach, or even join like a Christian singles group where you can just meet together and fellowship with like-minded people who are going through the same thing as you, going through the same season of singleness. Or it's helpful when we have people that know what it feels like to walk alongside and to kind of get through the hard things in life together. It makes it a little easier, I think. But we should be careful though with groups like that. If the way of communicating, if it becomes too much complaining or murmuring about the season of singleness, you kind of you don't want to be around all that negativity, so those kind of groups and the people you surround yourself with, you should be able to help encourage each other and find joy in walking together in that season, and lifting each other up in the faith, and just kind of getting finding a purpose in the singleness and helping each other out in that way to get through it, and God has given us meaningful work to do. So even if we have to do that work by ourselves for a season, I really believe that the work that we do for the Lord will bring us more joy than we could ever get from an earthly relationship. And, even people who are married, they aren't exempt from loneliness, because if you've ever experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. But, that's another reason we need to be seeking our healing and be in tune with the Lord, to have discernment about these major decisions in life, because you could end up, marrying someone of your own choosing that is, still has all these traumas, and then they don't know how to love properly. They don't know how to love you like Christ loves. They don't know how to show Christ's love. And so it could just end up further complicating your hurts and pains, and really sometimes being lonely in a marriage is far worse than being lonely in your singleness. And think about it. There is so much more to relationships than just romantic love. There's friendship first. There should be friendship first. So, go out there and be a friend, and then you will see that there's the giving and the receiving of more than just romantic love. And in doing so, you can still have a sense of fulfillment without that, in the meantime. Just try to nurture the connections that you have with other people. the people that are already in your life, or try to go and build new connections through those groups, or these extra activities that you're taking on because you don't want to think about things. And then when you're out there doing the Lord's work, some people have actually met their spouses that way. So think about Ruth and Boaz. Ruth was out there working in the fields, and then Boaz found her. So we don't always meet our person in church or in the places that we think. We have to keep an open heart and open mind and to the mysterious ways of God. The enemy, he wants you to stay in that place of sorrow and depression. He wants you to stay in despair when you think about the things that you're lacking. He wants you to doubt God. He wants you to doubt that God will answer that prayer for your spouse. And he uses your pain and your suffering to deceive us. He may send someone, he may encourage someone to come into your life that is, that appears to be what you want, what you've been praying for. And they turn out to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. They turn out to do your heart more harm than good. They come and they derail your life and your walk with God. When you're in your calling, when you're walking in your purpose, your plans and purposes, because you're aligned with God. And then you find yourself just even more set back than you were before. He sends a counterfeit. He sends someone that appears to be from God. And so we really have to have discernment. We have to wait upon the Lord. When we really do want God's best for the person that we're choosing to spend the rest of our lives with, and the person that we're allowing into the most intimate parts of our hearts. We want them to be healed. We want them to be whole. And we want them to be God's pick, God's best, because God knows ultimately what you need and what that other person needs in you. So yeah, it's best to wait on the Lord. And pray for God's will to be done, and tell God the desires of your heart. Be specific, and then admit to God that you don't want to do this on your own anymore, that you can't do this alone, because He already knows. And then remember that anything or any relationship that we value above our relationship with our Heavenly Father is considered idolatry. And so we really have to make sure that our hearts are right before God. And we can fake it with other people, but we cannot fake that with God. God sees and knows our hearts far better than we do. The word says that our hearts are deceitful and wicked. Who can know them? The Lord can know them. And so we got to remember that God is a jealous God, and He takes idolatry very seriously. So even things that are good, even the blessings, we need to make sure that we're not holding them more, dearer to our hearts than we are our relationship with God. We have to be content in the Lord before we can expect to receive anything more. Something that we would be tempted to value or love more. Because when we don't keep God in it, it's going to fail anyways. It's just a matter of time, because God is what holds us together. He's our firm foundation. And so anything that we build, any relationship that we build outside of God, or if we put that first, or we love it more, it's built on sinking sand. So just keep that in mind. But also, if you need help with that, because sometimes it can be hard to let go of those things, because they don't seem like bad things. They're not bad things, but we just hold them in too high of regard. So just ask God to help you. Ask God to search your heart and to show you what it is that you might need to let go of, to hold a little more loosely. And then ask Him to show you how to love Him first, how to put Him first and seek Him first, and what that really looks like for you. And sometimes, you might have to go into even more isolation or even more lack for you to really appreciate and love the Lord your God. Because if you take out the distractions, it might be, you'll see it a lot easier, a lot quicker, I think. So there's my rambling. Psalm 37:4, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. So don't stop hoping for marriage, because marriage is a good thing. It's a blessing from God, and it brings favor. It says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. And it's also, it sanctifies us. So marriage is good, and two are better than one is what the word says. But while you're waiting for your spouse, waiting for someone to share your life with, you can't stop living your life. So take these opportunities, these seasons of singleness, and try. Yes, we'll still have moments of loneliness, but try to refocus on growing and maturing in your relationship with Christ and your walk with Christ when it's just you and Him. When you can really focus on you and Him, and there's not the distraction of having to care for and tend to someone else. And so you can nurture that relationship, and then you can work on the things within yourself that need working on, because most of us probably still have something, either physically, mentally, emotionally, or even spiritually, that we need to work on. Some of us are still healing ourselves, so we can't expect to be ready if we haven't gone through that process, And so we want to be the best versions of ourselves, our healed selves, when we are presented to our spouses, when God does bring that someone into our lives. And we would want them to be healed as well, so we need to do our part. And hopefully the other person is doing theirs, before we even meet them, or behind the scenes when we have no idea what's going on. While we're seemingly waiting and wondering, God, when, why isn't this happening? It's probably because we're doing the work. You've got your work and they've got their work. And so when you come together, you are healed and ready to move forward in the God-honoring, healthy way, So ask God to reveal to you any areas in your life, in your mind or your emotions, your will, that might need work, that might need to be matured. And then do the hard work, because it is hard. It's hard to face those things, but now's the best time while you don't have anyone that's relying on you to do that. So, time goes on and you're doing your healing and you're feeling more joyful and content in the Lord in this season of singleness. And then, out of nowhere, maybe weeks or months down the road, you just get hit with this, these overwhelming feelings of loneliness again. And that'll probably happen because, we're still human. We still have these emotions. We still have that desire that's unmet. But when it does, cry out to the Lord. And remember that He hears you before you even speak. He knows everything that you need, everything that you're going through before you even call. And, He cares for you. Cast your anxieties on Him, because He cares for you and He sustains you. Remember that He holds all your tears in His bottle. He has them all written in His book. So don't neglect that relationship, that intimacy that He has called us to, the privilege that we have. So maybe try practicing in this time of nurturing that relationship, coming to Him first before you would call a friend or a family member to cry out to. Turn to God and remember that what you feed grows. So if you want to grow closer in God, to receive your healing and to strengthen your faith, and really try seeking Him first before you go to anyone else. So one thing that really helped me on the nights and the evenings where I was feeling really lonely, I would watch the series The Chosen, and I would still cry on every episode, but they weren't tears of sorrow and pain. They were tears of love and joy because of Jesus. It really helps to, at least for me, it really helped to try to envision what Jesus would have been like and what it would have been like to walk with Him as a disciple. And I don't know, it just really lifted my mood. It was really encouraging, and it filled me up. So, if you watch an episode or two before bed, if you're feeling that way, and then you go get in bed and you go to sleep with this fullness of joy. So I suggest it. But anyways, I hope that this video has been encouraging and helpful in your season of loneliness, in your nights of loneliness, and just to know that you're not alone. I'm sure many people feel this way. It's just we don't always talk about it because we're supposed to be strong in the Lord and, maybe not feel these things as we do, but we're still human. We still have these emotions and these struggles. So just know that God is for you. God is with you. He's never left you nor forsaken you. And just kind of focus on being that son or daughter of God Most High that He's called you to be. So Jesus bless you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.